You guys, you think the college football season's over? No. The college football season, I declare, does not end until the Senior Bowl on February 4th. That's the official end of college football. The executive director, Super Bowl champ, longtime NFL scout, the perfect guy for this job as executive director of the Senior Bowl, joins us. Jim, number one, thanks for joining us. Two, well, I'm going to get right into it. You and I were talking. Stetson Bennett may show. I believe, I'm sitting there watching. Now, I don't know my ass from third base, but I'm sitting there watching, and I'm sitting, hey, look, I don't know if Stetson Bennett is Justin Herbert, but if I'm a general manager, I'm not mad at taking a swing on Stetson Bennett in the NFL draft.
No, Dan, thanks for having me on, man. With Stetson, he checks a lot of major boxes, right? So he's played a ton of football. He's played a ton of winning football. He's gonna really test well. The guy's a good athlete. You can say what you want about the size. He's gonna roll. He's gonna run 4.5s, which is blazing for a quarterback. There was a play in the national championship game. TCU's got a will linebacker named D. Winters, number 13. And Stetson gets outside. D. Winters tries to chase him down, can't catch him. That shows Stetson's speed. So there's a lot of major boxes. And right now, our goal for the Senior Bowl is to get all our guys drafted. So we've got a couple quarterback spots that we have open that we can play with right now. And calling around NFL teams, Stetson's going to get drafted. I mean, there's way too many teams right now that have him in that 5th to 7th round range. I mean, I've reached out to 8 or 9 teams in the last couple of days, and every single one of them has draftable grades. So more power to the guy, man. Like he's kind of got that underdog story, overachiever story, but he's earned it. I mean, the guy's a back-to-back national champion.
Yeah, I think people forget, man. I mean, when the dude threw the football, I expected it to be complete. Now, you can say he's got the greatest. I just thought he was – I don't know squad. Let me go to the quarterback. You know, Levis, you got Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud. How does the Senior Bowl – I'm gonna give you a little time to recruit these guys here. How would the Senior Bowl help these guys?
Well, it's the week-long exposure, Dan. I mean, when you think about the draft process, I mean, it's really a small window of time where you get to be around these players. When you think about it, when you think about the millions of dollars these teams have to spend. So, you get a little time at the combine with them, and you can go into the individual workouts. I mean, all these quarterbacks will have their own throwing day. So you do get a little time that way. But a week-long exposure, and again, it's with the teammates. In those settings, it's just them with the player. Down here, you get to see them with another group of guys. I think that's where Justin Herbert really helped himself down here at the Senior Bowl, because there was a lot of talk that Justin was the, quote, introvert, things of that nature. And he gets down here with a bunch of guys from all around the country that he never played with, didn't know. And by the end of the week, you could see he had an effect on those guys. They kind of gravitated to him. We saw that after the game, after he was named the MVP. I mean, he just got all the guys came over to him after the game. And so it's just that exposure, the meeting room time, showing off how smart you are, how quickly you can pick up an offense. I think Mac Jones really stood out that way, coming out day one, knowing where to go with the football in a new system. So there's a lot of things you can highlight, but I just think that week-long exposure in a really laid back setting. The combine can be kind of corporate and kind of stressful. It's go. Down here, it's a little more laid back. I feel like the teams, I know when I worked in the NFL, I always felt like I met the real guy here in Mobile, because it was laid back. Guys could be themselves. And it's just really a good kind of a good look into who these guys are as people. I mean, you hear about these guys at the schools all fall when you're a scout, but you really get to meet them here in Mobile.
When I was recruiting for Coach Snyder, for myself, one thing I did was I always just kind of hung around, tried to find out where the players that I wanted most were staying, and I kind of did what you're talking about. I kind of hung around. I wanted to see how they treated waitresses, waiters, people. You know what I mean? And that's what the Senior Bowl experience is, at least as I view it, and I've talked to you over the years. Yeah, we want to see you on the field, but we want to get to know you a little bit more. What do they say? Character is exposed when nobody's watching, that kind of thing.
There's no doubt. It's the little things that you take away. It's the little interactions. It's the little observations. We tell all the players when they get to Mobile in our orientation dinner, I tell them, like, fellas, you're on display for a week. Everything you're doing down here for the next week is going to be evaluated. So it's that stuff off the field, Dan, and those are really good points. I mean, I think some of the best sources when you go into a school, are the people that work in the cafeteria. It's the guys that work down in the equipment room. But down here, the other great thing is getting to see the one-on-one reps. I know, like, the offensive line, defensive line, our pass rush stuff is some of the most popular stuff from a fan's perspective. And it's because it's great. It's mano a mano. It's one guy against another guy. And we have him take 2 reps. And, if a guy gets his butt whooped on the first rep, you want to see how he bounces back. And all these NFL guys are down there on the field so they can read facial expression. They can see how a guy might take a coaching point between reps after he loses. An offensive line coach might jump in and give him one coaching point, and then you see how he applies that the next rep. So there's so many great takeaways. If you come down here with your sleeves rolled up and you're really dialed in and you're not getting caught talking to your scouting buddy that you worked with 10 years ago with a previous team, like, if you come to practice and you're really into it, there's so many things you can take away.
Yeah, I got ripped on national TV and national radio because I talked about those exact things. Like, I want to see the eyes of a player. I said that a kid, Christmas Porzingis, was never going to lead the Knicks out of the lottery because he had bad eyes. I watched him. I watched how he reacted, and I got just crushed, and of course he never did. So those things matter to people that are inside the NFL. That's why you're the perfect guy to run this thing, because of your past experience. Let me go this route. Let me stay with quarterbacks for just a minute. I'm here in Indy. We need a quarterback, so I'm paying attention to this. Do you like this class?
I do. I got to dig more into C.J. Stroud, and I've watched Bryce play a lot. I've been to a bunch of Alabama games, but the thing is with this class, they're very different. It's kind of a Baskin-Robbins group. I mean, all these guys bring different positives and negatives to the table, and that's why this process is going to be big for these guys, because Bryce's thing is he's extremely instinctive. He's a guy that he sees the field well, he anticipates, he's got great feel in the pocket. Will Levis and Anthony Richardson from Florida are 2 guys that were at the Manning camp this summer in Thibodaux, Louisiana, which I have a chance to go to every year. And they were head and shoulders in terms of physical tools. Those 2 guys were head and shoulders above everyone else. C.J. Stroud wasn't at the camp, so he's probably the one I have the least background with. But, it's going to be one of those quarterback groups that, depending on which team you talk to, I think the order of that top 5 or 6 mix is going to be very, very, very different depending on which team you speak with.